Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2024 Mazda CX-5, we're going to be showing you how to install the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver. But let's check this one out first, make sure it's going to be the right hitch for you. These trailer hitches just aren't meant for pulling a trailer anymore. You know, there's a lot of other accessories out there that you can use with these, whether it be a bike rack or a cargo carrier. Regardless on what you're trying to do, having this back here is going to allow you to get that job done. To compare this hitch to some of the other ones available, they're all going to be pretty much the same. You know, there's a few minor differences, but the Curt hitch, we have more of a gloss black finish. The eTrailer, that's probably my favorite as far as how it looks. That has more of a matte black carbide finish and almost matches the plastic on the bumper spot on. And then there's a draw tight hitch. Again, looks very similar, but it's more of a semi-gloss. So nothing really too crazy there. I will say that the draw tight hitch does have a little bit higher capacity, so it can handle a little bit more weight. So if that's what's really important to you, it's probably worth checking that one out. This is a class 3 hitch, meaning it has the 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is a good thing. That's a really common size, so a ton of different accessories will work with it. It is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. One doesn't come with the hitch. If you need one, not a huge deal. Get it here at eTrailer. A lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one. So something to look out for there. As far as the safety chain openings go, loop style and plenty big to allow you to use just about any size hook that your trailer might have on it. This is going to have some pretty good numbers. Maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 600 pounds, which is the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. And with that, that's good enough for just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier. Just to give you an example. And for the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 4,000 pounds, or the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. That is the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have in or on it. I do always like to recommend, though, it's never a bad idea just to grab your Mazda's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure that your CX-5 can handle that amount of weight safely. We'll grab a couple measurements now, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best. If you go from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 13.5 inches. For those of you pulling a trailer around, you could probably use a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. That 2 to 4 inch range would probably work well in most situations. And if it were me and I was looking to buy a new accessory, I'd probably try to find one that also has a rise just to buy me a little more ground clearance back here. But if you already have one that has a straight shank, that'll work out just fine too. If you go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 4 inches, which is pretty good. You shouldn't really run into too many issues here, but if need be, you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories that you might have can be stored in the upright position without hitting the back of your Mazda. Other than that, not much to it. Hitch you really can't go wrong with. I think it looks good, and you can pull your trailer, use your accessories, or do whatever you're trying to get done with it. As far as the installation goes, it's not really too complicated. Some points can be kind of a pain. It's just a little tight. You know, you don't have a ton of room to work and during some points of the installation process, but it's definitely doable at home for sure. With that said, if this is something that you don't feel like messing with or have the time or place to work on it, I definitely understand that. You can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can set something like this up for you. But if you're going to give it a go, hang around, we'll go ahead, pull into the garage, and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Mazda. And here in the middle, we're going to have this little plastic trim piece that we can remove. So on each side of it, there's just a plastic push pin fastener. You can take a screwdriver, pry the head of it down, and pull the base down. And then in these little openings too, there's a little plastic tab that you just kind of push up on to release. We'll lower this down, get out of the way, and then something that I like to do too, since we're right here, there's another push pin on each side that I like to pull out. And what that's going to do is just give us a little more working room with our fascia. You know, you'll be able to kind of pull back on it a little easier, and just gives us more space when we do actually go to put the hitch up. Since we will need to lower the exhaust down some to give us more room, what I like to do before that is just take a strap. I'll just run it from side to side. That way the exhaust will have a little support and we can kind of control how fast and how far we let it come down. To let the exhaust come down, we're going to have a total of 4 rubber isolator hangers, just like this one here. We have one there, and one there. And it's going to be set up the exact same way on the other side of the vehicle. And what you want to do, you can spray these down with soapy water or some type of lubricant. Just take a pry bar, big trim or a big screwdriver, whatever you got. I'm just going to work one end of that hanger off. I already got the ones on the other side removed like this. So what we can do now, we'll loosen up our strap and let the exhaust come down a little ways. Now if you look at the side of your frame rail, this is where our hitch is going to bolt up to. And whatever we do to one side of your vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side from this point on, because it's set up the same. You'll have this little wiring harness here. You can take a trim tool or screwdriver and just release that from the frame. And then kind of tucked up way up here in this area, there's going to be a sticker that's covering up one of our attachment points. And if you take a scraper, you can peel that sticker away. That way we can get access to it. Here's a better look at that attachment point now that that sticker's out of the way. And it's just a threaded weld nut. And so what I suggest doing, taking a toothbrush, put penetrating oil in there if you want, and just clean the threads out. Even though it was covered, you know, you can still get a little debris in there. And then the hardware that we're going to use for this attachment point, it'll be the same on both sides. We'll just have a bolt and a conical tooth washer. When you put that conical tooth washer on, you want to make sure that the teeth are on it like this. That way when you thread it in, those teeth will face towards the hitch. So those are going to match up there with those weld nuts in the frame. And just thread into position whenever we're getting ready to put the hitch up. You'll have another attachment point in this area. And a lot of times you'll have this sealer stuff on the side of the frame. So not only do we want to, remove that portion there to get to that other access point, but also all this sealer here, it's piled up pretty thick on our vehicle. That can interfere with getting the hitch up into place. So I'm just going to scrape all that away here on the side. Once you get the side of the frame rail all nice and clean and flat, we can determine what hardware combination we're going to use for that attachment point. So depending on your vehicle, it'll be set up one of two ways. Some of them will be just like the hole towards the front, where there will be a threaded weld nut in there. If that's the case, the kit does give you extra bolts and conical tooth washers, just like the ones we talked about. So if you got a weld nut there, that's what you're going to use. From my experience, the majority of them are set up like the one that we have here today, where it's just an open hole. And if yours is like that, what you can do is take one of the pull wires that they give you. We'll take the coiled end of it, feed it through the hole on the side and down through this larger hole in the bottom of our frame. And then you can put on a spacer block and a carriage bolt. So the carriage bolt will thread on. And then you can feed the hardware up into the frame rail one at a time. You'll pull it through to make sure it sits flat and everything's smooth. But once you do that, go ahead and just tuck it right back into the frame. That way it doesn't interfere with our hitch when we go to put it up into position. Grab your trailer hitch. On the inside of these side plates here, these are going to line up with our attachment points. The kit will come with 4 of these flat washers, and what we're going to do, I just got a little piece of packing tape here. we're going to tape that washer, lining it up with the attachment points. This is going to hold true for all the holes in our hitch here. You know, we'll have 2 on each side. And doing it like this, it's just easier than trying to hold the hitch up above your head and sneak this washer in, trying to get all this hardware lined up and everything. Of course, you do want to make sure to come back and cut the tape out of the way from where the bolt's actually going to pass through that opening. If you can have someone help you out with this part, it makes it a lot easier, just because the hitch is kind of heavy. But you want to raise the hitch up into position over the exhaust, take your pull wire, and from the inside out, put it through the washer, lift it up, and you'll probably have to kind of pull down on your bumper and the exhaust a little bit, you know, just to get it where it needs to go. Once we do, should be able to take your pull wire, pull it up into position, and then the weight of the hitch should kind of keep everything supported. And once it's like that, if you remove that pull wire, you can then take a flange nut, thread that on hand tight. Come back in with this other piece of hardware. Get that one going too. And then what I suggest doing while this is still loose, the hitch is going to come with a couple of these ties here. I'm going to feed it in between the hitch and the frame rail, and then that wire, you know, that we took loose. And just partially zip tie that up, roughly into position, you know. That way it's there. If we tighten the hitch up, it'll probably draw everything too tight to be able to get a zip tie in there. Quick pointer too, while the hitch is still loose, whenever you took the exhaust hangers off, especially the ones here towards the back of the vehicle, whenever you removed them, if the hanger was still attached to the exhaust side, take it off and put it on this top hook now. Or even better, you know, if you go to do it to begin with before the hitch is even up there, pop it up there on this side. And I say it because, you know, once everything's bolted down and everything, and we try to go to reinstall our exhaust and you're holding it up, given that there's not a ton of space here, it's really difficult to get this top one back on. It'll be much easier to lift our exhaust up and slide it into this bottom hole where it's wide open there. So just something that I noticed and figured I'd share. You can come back with a 19mm socket now and snug down all of the hardware. I'm going to make sure and come back with a torque wrench now and tighten down all of the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. With the hitch all torqued down, came back and, you know, positioned our wire out of the way, close to where it was originally, pulled that tie down tight and clipped off that loose end. We'll rehang our exhaust. Definitely helps if you re-lubricate the hangers. And with these, I think I'm going to try these ones close to the back first on each side. And then move to the ones closer to the front. Once the exhaust is supporting itself, come back and get our strap out of the way. Took those push pins and put them back in place here on the bottom of our bumper. And as far as this little plastic piece goes, I've tried a bunch of times to cut it and get it to fit back up there in the past. And usually it's just more trouble than what it's worth. You know, it'll end up kind of bouncing around and not really looking that great anyway. So this is just fine here. You know, nothing looks out of place by any means, at least in my opinion. But with all that done, that'll finish up our look at and installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2024 Mazda CX-5.